The shocking case of Laci Peterson's disappearance will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about justice and truth. Don't miss out on the jaw-dropping twists that still haunt us today. The tragic case of Laci Peterson's disappearance on Christmas Eve, 2002, is a haunting reminder of how quickly a life can turn upside down. 8 months pregnant and with a seemingly perfect life, Laci vanished under mysterious circumstances, and the events that followed would shake the nation to its core. Her husband, Scott Peterson, would later be convicted of her death, yet the story doesn't end there. Questions about his innocence continue to linger. In this narrative, we will unravel the timeline, the theories, and the haunting details that make this case one of the most debated and discussed in modern history. A life full of promise. Laci Peterson, born Laci Rocha in 1975, grew up in a peaceful farm community in Escalon, California. The daughter of a hardworking farm family, she was happiest in her garden, surrounded by nature. She attended California Polytechnic State University, where she studied ornamental horticulture, and soon found herself immersed in the joy of nurturing plants and flowers. Little did she know, this simple love for life and nature would collide with the darker elements of fate. At university, Laci met Scott Peterson, a man who would eventually become her husband. Their connection was immediate, almost destined, and in 1994, they began their journey together. They married in 1997, and although their life together appeared ideal, cracks began to form beneath the surface, unknown to many. The hidden truths. Behind closed doors, Scott's behavior was less than admirable. A talented golfer, Scott had a history of infidelity, with reports of multiple affairs during his marriage to Laci. One affair, with a massage therapist named Amber Free, would later come to light and play a critical role in unraveling the case. It's in the shadows of these affairs that we begin to see a man unraveling, a man whose actions would spiral into a catastrophe that no one could have predicted. In 2002, just weeks before Laci's disappearance, Scott's affair with Amber began. Scott told Amber that he was a widower, a lie that would later make her a pivotal witness in the case. As Laci's pregnancy advanced, Scott continued his affair in secret, further distancing himself from his wife. A day that changed everything. On December 24, 2002, Laci Peterson went missing. The details surrounding her disappearance are chilling. Scott told police that he had left for a day of fishing at the Berkeley Marina, a place he claimed to frequent often. He said he last saw Laci at 9:30 a.m. when she was watching Martha Stewart on television. He also mentioned she planned to walk the dog, run some errands, and prepare for Christmas dinner. By the time Scott returned home, Laci was gone. Her car was still in the driveway, her purse left behind, and the dog was found alone, muddy, and with its leash attached. The absence of his wife seemed unremarkable to Scott, who spent the rest of the day eating pizza and drinking milk before reporting her missing to the police at 6 p.m. A husband under suspicion. The investigation into Laci's disappearance quickly turned its focus onto Scott. His calm demeanor during the questioning raised red flags, and inconsistencies in his story only added fuel to the fire. Police were suspicious of his actions, and despite his claims of innocence, the evidence seemed to paint a different picture. As the days passed, more details came to light that made Scott appear more guilty. He had been involved in a secret affair, and his story about fishing at the Berkeley Marina began to unravel. When asked about the type of fish he was targeting, he couldn't provide a clear answer, further deepening the suspicion. To complicate matters, a phone book was discovered in his home, open to a full-page ad for a defense attorney. The affair that changed everything. Amber Frey, the woman Scott had been seeing, became a key figure in the investigation. When she learned of Laci's disappearance, she contacted the police and revealed the details of her relationship with Scott. Amber had been told that Scott was a widower, but as she saw him publicly pleading for his missing wife's return, she realized the truth. She began recording phone calls with Scott, hoping to gain valuable information that could shed light on the case. One of these recordings revealed Scott's alarming behavior. He had been lying about his whereabouts and even fabricated a story about spending New Year's Eve in Europe. The public revelation of their affair turned the tide of public opinion against Scott. He had lost the trust of Laci's family and friends, and the media circus surrounding the case intensified. A community in mourning, Laci's family, devastated by her disappearance, began to question Scott's actions. Despite his public pleas for help, his behavior seemed detached and unnatural. The search for Laci intensified, with helicopters, searchlights, and heat sensors used to calm the area. Volunteers poured in, offering assistance, and a $25,000 reward was initially offered for information, leading to her safe return. However, as the weeks passed, it became clear that Laci's fate might be far darker than anyone had imagined. A mother's grief and a nation's shock. After months of searching, the remains of Laci and her unborn son, Connor, were discovered in April 2003, washed up on the shores of the San Francisco Bay. Laci's body was found severely decomposed, with her head, arms, and legs missing. The fetus was discovered the day before, and the circumstances surrounding their deaths were chilling. The discovery of the bodies led to Scott's arrest on April 18, 2003, just days after the remains were found. Scott's actions following the discovery of Laci's body raised further suspicion. He had dyed his hair blonde, grown a goatee, and was found with camping equipment, $15,000 in cash, and a stash of Viagra pills in his car. These items led authorities to believe he was preparing to flee the country, further cementing their belief that he had orchestrated the murders. A gripping legal battle. Scott Peterson's trial began in 2004, with the prosecution arguing that he murdered Laci in order to escape his marriage and the responsibilities of fatherhood. The evidence presented was damning, including a hair found on a pair of pliers in Scott's boat, the strange behavior surrounding the days leading up to Laci's disappearance, and his affair with Amber Free. The defense, however, maintained that someone else was responsible for the murders, though no substantial evidence supported this claim. After months of deliberation, the jury convicted Scott Peterson of first-degree murder for Laci's death and second-degree murder for Connor's. His sentence: death by lethal injection. Controversy and appeals. In the years following Scott's conviction, there has been much debate over his guilt. Some believe that there are inconsistencies in the evidence, including the reported sightings of Laci after Scott had left for fishing. Others point to the theory that Laci's death was the result of a burglary gone wrong, a theory that was never thoroughly investigated. In 2012, Scott's defense attorney filed an appeal, citing that he had been denied a fair trial, but this was rejected. The case of Scott and Laci Peterson is a tragic tale of betrayal, loss, and unanswered questions. The legal system has rendered its verdict, but the whispers of doubt remain. Was Scott Peterson truly guilty of the murders of his wife and unborn son, or was he a man caught in a web of circumstantial evidence and public suspicion? As the years pass, the mystery of Laci Peterson's death lingers, haunting both those who loved her and those who seek the truth. This story is far from over, and as we look back on this infamous case, we are reminded of the fragile nature of truth and justice. Whether Scott Peterson is innocent or guilty, one thing is certain: Laci Peterson and her unborn son, Connor, will never be forgotten. The mystery of Laci Peterson's case has left us with more questions than answers, but the truth might be even darker. Stay tuned for our next video, The Disappearance of Natalie Holloway, where another chilling case awaits. Subscribe now or risk missing the shocking revelations we're about to uncover.